I am so cross with the airline for putting us on a flight.
For not being more cautious, yeah.
It was a burning island, and they knew that. They had the army evacuating on Saturday morning, yet they let us fly at 4:45 on Saturday night from Manchester. And we've met people who were allowed to fly after us. Now, that is totally irresponsible by the Greek government, by the tour operators, by the airlines. This has gone so badly wrong. It's so irresponsible.
It is, and the conditions that you were in, you're saying that you'd rather not be in that situation, but that they could be worse. I'm reading that some people, when they were evacuated and then dropped off, they were dropped off at sports halls, schools, as you said, conference centres, and sometimes just on the street.
Yeah, we met a lady, and she must have been 65. She was battered, she was bruised, she'd walked for 6 miles, and then she had to sleep on the floor for 2 days. We've all been fighting for accommodation. I've had to pay £300 a night for tonight and last night. There's no kind of movement on room rates. They're not kind of dropping the prices for us. Some of the room rates, we were all fighting on Airbnb and Booking.com, and it's just been a nightmare. And the reps are saying, the reps have been fighting for accommodation, and there's nothing. Nothing.
How easy is it or not for you to genuinely know what's happening with the fires?
Well, all we can do is what you can do, and that's just look on websites and look online. We're getting nothing from our particular travel company. We're not getting an awful lot from the airline. We just had notification that they are accepting transfers if we can get an earlier flight, but obviously everybody's heading to the airport trying to get out. And I'm now seriously worried. I'm trying to keep it away from my daughter, who's hidden in the loo at the minute. And just because I can see us, the only way off this island is on a boat, and that is not being dramatic. That is being serious. We've had friends who they were taken to the beach on Saturday down near Kiatari. Then they ran for coaches. I've heard of people hanging onto bin wagons. It is very, very scary.
We were due to fly back anyway on Saturday, but we knew about Thursday that there were bushfires around, but they were high in the mountains, so they weren't affecting the hotel at that time. But about Thursday evening, we were sort of at the entertainment show, and a lot of white ash was dropping on us. So we knew in our hearts it was getting close. And Saturday morning, we went down by the pool area, and we could see smoke coming towards the hotel. We were ready to check out, so we went and packed everything we needed to. We went down for some lunch, and then all the electricity went off. And we knew something, wasn't quite right. We then went down into reception. We could see these big, thick black clouds coming over. The water helicopters were above us, sort of dipping water and putting the water on the fires. We called our local rep to see what we needed to do, because we were being picked up at 7 p.m. that night. They told us unless we heard anything different to stay put, they would be there at 7 p.m. to pick us up. We carried on waiting and waiting. The smoke was getting thicker, so we had to go into doors because we couldn't breathe outside. We waited. We asked the hotel reception what we needed to do. They just said stay put. We waited and waited a bit longer. And then we got a text message from the government saying if you're in Kiatari, you needed to evacuate and go to Ginetti. We were trying to find out where Ginetti was, but nobody was there to tell us or advise us. The next thing we knew, we just heard sort of go, go, go. We ran out of our main front hotel door, and just to the left of us was fire. There was flames, literally red hot flames. And we were like, well, where are we going? What are we doing? And they said, run to the beach. We ran down to the beach. Obviously, there were disabled people. There were people with children, people crying, people screaming. We got to sort of the first beach and sort of sat on some beds. We had masks with us, so immediately we put masks on because it was just thick black clouds, ash coming down. As soon as we sat on the sunbed, we were just told, don't sit, run, run, run. So we kept running. We must have ran over 4, maybe 5 beaches, saying, where are we going? What are we doing? And they just kept telling us to run, run, run.
The holiday operator you were with, Nerissa, how helpful were they, or otherwise?
We didn't hear anything in the hotel. And as I say, we called them in the morning, or sort of at lunchtime, and they just said, stay put. Right. We'll let you know if there's any change to your pickup bus. But apart from that, we saw absolutely nobody. It was the locals that were telling us just to keep running, keep running.
So how did you eventually get to the airport? Did they provide a bus eventually?
No. We got to a small restaurant where they were giving out free water to everybody. We waited there for about an hour and a half. And again, we were right underneath the helicopters. The fire was following us every time we ran to the next beach. The fire was sort of following us. And eventually we said, what are we doing? They said, if you get up onto the main road, you might be lucky to find a bus.
Right.
So there were coaches and buses going along the main road. And we just sort of said, can we get on? We just jumped on this bus that took us to the Janadi Hotel.
Yes.
Where they gave us food and drink. Again, we said, is there a hotel rep here to explain? They said, no. Nobody.
And what have you done with were you carrying your clothes with you, or have you just had to leave your bags? You were carrying your bags with you? God.
Yeah, we'd already checked out, so we had all our luggage with us. Okay, in hindsight, perhaps we should have just left everything, but we had it with us.
Yeah.
So we were dragging suitcases across the beach and cliffs, etc., to try and get away.
Well, it's lovely to see you safely home. How was your holiday, Nerissa?
Up until that point, it was absolutely brilliant. It was a fantastic holiday.
What sort of future is he, what sort of future is he helping to create for his own offspring? They live in the same world that we do. They breathe it. I'm sure they'll be going to very different schools than my children went to, but they breathe the same air, they drink the same water. I presume they'd actually like to know that there is actually still some wildlife out there, just the same as my kids do, They deserve a future just like my kids and everybody else's kids do. And, when I've got my daughter at midnight last night, breaking down in tears, talking about, she just read something online, and you shouldn't read heavy stuff like this, late at night. But when she's talking about the future or the lack of one, and what's the point in having children herself, she's a 24-year-old young woman just starting out in life. And, where is the representation for our young people? Where is the leadership? Because it's just not out there. It's not existing. I mean, the Prime Minister, those ridiculous pledges have got nothing to do with what, in my book, about what we really, really should be dealing with. And actually, some of them are a function of the fact that our environment is breaking down, that there are parts of planet Earth that are no longer producing the food that they need to, that there are parts of planet Earth that people are no longer able to inhabit. People are fleeing. It's the mass migration that was being predicted 20, 25 years ago, when all this was being, of course, predicted by, the experts that now whose opinion has been summarily dismissed. Wasn't it Gove last year who said, we've had enough of experts? Well, they've had enough of experts because, of course, what the experts, who are specially trained, spend a lifetime studying, being involved in certain areas of expertise, of course, they're just coming out with truths that are inconvenient.